looking for a set of two-player games that has a lot of depth, a lot of strategy, is quite portable, but you can teach in under 60 seconds? Yes, it's too good to be true, but actually it is true, because let me introduce you to the Ancient Games of America, Ludos Volume 3. These are 4 games that you can literally fit into your pocket, take them on holiday or traveling, and yet they're going to be really fun to play with your significant other or even your best friend. Hi, my name's Danny. I'm from Australia. I love sharing my passion for board gaming with you, my friends, and my family. Come and join me for this video. And don't forget to subscribe for more wholesome board game content. Konane is a traditional two-player abstract strategy game that originates from Hawaii. This is a traditional game that used to be played on carved out lava rock or planks of wood that were found in the local area. And this game kind of represents the idea of picking these beautiful flowers to craft those really gorgeous looking garlands that they use to greet visitors to their land. In this game, there are 2 different types of flowers, the hibiscus and jasmine flowers. They're laid out in alternating fashion on the main player board. Basically, at the beginning of the game, whoever the hibiscus player is, they're either going to take a hibiscus flower from one of the 2 central ones or from one of the 2 far corners. Then the jasmine player is going to pick a flower that was adjacent to the flower that was just picked by the hibiscus player. Following that, the game is on. This is going to create a little pocket where players are aiming to try and jump over the other player's flowers. So if I'm the hibiscus player, I'm going to want to try and jump over the jasmine flowers to collect them, remove them off the board, and place them off to the side. And so as you jump over other flowers and remove them from the board, it's going to create more pockets, more spaces, and more gaps in the landscape, creating more opportunity for the other player to do like a multi-jumping combo, where if you have certain flowers which you haven't maneuvered or moved them out of the way or kept them with the main group, they're going to be easy targets for the opposing player to collect multiple of those in a row. And so this game keeps progressing in that way where you try and jump over the other player's flowers until a player can no longer find an opportunity to collect a flower. And when this happens, that player loses and the other player wins. And so part of this game is all about sticking with the group, making sure that your flowers are not left alone. And if they are left alone, you kind of want to be quite far away from your opponent's flowers. And where you move your flower to by jumping over your opponent's flowers, that's going to create another gap, and that's going to also mean that that flower's in a possibly precarious position if the other player has left certain of their flowers in the right spots. This is a game about the ever-changing landscape. It's about predicting and thinking about the gaps in the patterns and then how that's going to play into your strategy and the decision of whether you're going to capture 2 or 3 of your opponents in a row and then leave yours lined up so that the opponent can capture yours. And the fact that it's all set out in this alternating fashion means there's plenty of opportunity to keep capturing some fascinating different tactical decisions well worth exploring. Komikan is a hunter vs prey style abstract game that originates from Chile. This is a game where one player takes on the role of the puma and the other player takes on the role of a big herd of alpacas. Imagine a puma kind of creeping in around a herd of alpacas and trying to stalk its prey and trying to hunt them. This game really encapsulates that feeling. So what the puma is trying to do in this game is to try and capture 6 alpacas. Once the puma catches 6 alpacas, they've won the game. The alpacas, however, have 2 endgame victory conditions. They're trying to trap the puma by stopping the puma from being able to have any valid moves, or they're trying to occupy the 7 spaces inside the puma's den. And this creates for some interesting tug-of-war scenarios. The puma on their turn is going to be able to move along the lines that are connected between the dots. If there is a gap on the other side of an alpaca, that puma can jump over that alpaca and remove it from the board. The alpacas, however, can't jump over the puma, but they can kind of slowly creep along this field and move 1 dot at a time. And as they move, they're getting closer and closer towards that puma's den. And so the puma is trying to eliminate the vast number of alpacas that are kind of hoarding towards it. and the alpacas are trying to collectively surround that puma and kind of trap it in a corner or take over its home. Essentially a game about moving one step at a time and preempting what you think the opposing player is going to do next. As the puma player, it kind of feels like the herd is against you. As the herding player, you kind of want to stick together and band together as a group as you progressively move forwards. Now, Lemery Games has told me that they've got this really fun variant that they really like of this version of the game, where once the alpaca player has placed 3 alpacas in the furthest 3 spaces in the puma's den, that will allow the alpaca player to return one of their alpacas to the starting row. And this can also be repeated again when they fill up the second 3 rows of the puma's pen. This game definitely feels like a blend between chess and a one versus all style game. Puluc is a 2-player tug-of-war style game that originates from Guatemala. Imagine 2 Mayan factions going head to head in spiritual war. Players going to be moving their warriors away from their city to try and capture the warriors from the opposing cities and then basically push them back to their own home city. This is a game where players are going to be throwing these corn kernels, and based on the result of those corn kernels, players are going to be able to choose a warrior that's still available to them and move them the exact number of spaces. So if a player throws the 4 corn kernels and 2 of them show a face-up pip and the other 2 are blank, then a player can move one of their warriors exactly 2 spaces. No more, no less. If all of the corn kernels show up blank, then the player can either move 0 spaces, 5 spaces, or 6 spaces exactly. And so what players are going to be doing is, as they move their warriors, if they land on an opposing player's token, that opposing player then becomes kind of captured. And as that player continues moving their token, they're going to essentially be moving that opposing player's warrior back to their city. There's going to be quite a lot of turnaround in the game, because if the opposing player lands on the stack, they can push the entire stack back to the other player's city. Now, if one of the players successfully drives the tokens back to the other player's home city, that home player is going to lose that particular warrior. And the warriors that successfully pushed the opposing players' tokens into their home city get returned back to the beginning and they can reuse them. So as the winning player, you basically push the opposing players' warriors into their city, which get lost, and then you get to use your warriors again. So being the winning player means that you're going to gradually get an increasing advantage over the losing player, who's going to essentially have less and less options throughout the game. And as players land on the other player's stack, they then change the direction of that stack's movement. So if I'm the green player, I'm going to push this yellow player towards the yellow side. But then if the yellow player lands on that stack, they're going to push that stack back towards my side, the green side. And this can kind of move back and forth until there are less and less options that can be taken. And then once one player is able to get it right into the other player's city, that's going to eliminate a lot of those warrior tokens from play. Awithlaknannai is a game that originates from New Mexico. It's also known as the Fighting Serpents game. This is a game where the board is elongated and each of the dots is connected by lines. Players will be controlling one type of serpent and trying to capture the other player's serpents by leaping over them. At the beginning of the game, there's a gap in the very middle of the board, and as players move their serpents along the lines, that's going to create gaps on the other side for the opposing player to jump over and capture different snake pieces. Players are going to continue jumping over each other's serpents until one player either does not have any serpent tokens of their color left, there is either a draw where no player can make any moves, or one player is unable to make a move, meaning that the active player who can make a move will win the game. This is a game that has you thinking about gaps between gaps, thinking about the serpents and how they're positioned. Do you move your serpent so that you kind of hopefully will be able to retain the group without leaving gaps on the other side, or do you play quite aggressively and capture each time you see an opportunity? Lemery Games has said that there's a really fun variant that they like to play, a little twist to the game where they remove one extra serpent from each player at the beginning of the game so that there are 3 empty spaces at the start of the game, which provides a little bit more leeway and flexibility for, I guess, positioning, deciding where you'd want to move without getting captured immediately on your first turn. So what do you think of Ludos, the Ancient Games of America collection? Do you think a lot of these old games should be resurrected from the past, reinvigorated for modern day audiences? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you played some of these ancient games of America, Asia, or even Africa, please let me know which of these games you've played, or maybe you own them already. A lot of these games are actually available online and they're free to play, free to learn before you even consider wanting to maybe back this game. Thanks once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really found this video super helpful and insightful and enjoyable, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you really want to help me make this channel grow, please consider buying me a coffee a month over at my Patreon page. Otherwise, this is Danny Sana. I hope your next 2-player board game is a really fun and amazing one, and I can't wait to bring you more content in the next video. See you soon!